Hi guys, this is Arif from TechShare. Today I am going to explain the Sitecore JavaScript service JSS. So recently Sitecore released Sitecore 10.1 and part of 10.1 Sitecore also released JavaScript service, the new version, which actually includes the next.js integration with JSS. So I was quite interested when I found JSS did that, because I was quite a fan of next.js as well, because of definitely couple of the very hit feature like SSG. How can you leverage this feature like static site generation? How can you use the server side rendering and also incremental static regeneration, right? So those terms were quite popular in next.js. And then when I found basically JSS also included next.js in their client side application, then I was quite interested. So today I'm gonna show you sort of deep dive I'm going to do with this JSS. So let me show you the project here. So I have created this sample JSS example application, and I put something here already so that I can explain to you guys, and from there I can show you something instead I create from the scratch, because that way I can be able to cover more features, more things on JSS. So let me run this application. So I have already run the application here, you can see. And if I open this one, so now you can see here, this is my application, pretty basic application, but yeah, I mean, you can see here. So this is a home page where I have some content. So this is a list of services, and then we have some article thing here. So what is a list of services and articles? So basically some content coming from Sitecore, and then here we have the services via SSG. So when we use SSG, then how does it look like? And this services, this is not coming from SSG but from the component, like, you know, without SSG. And then I also included content hub as well, sort of integration. The details integration of content hub I think should be published in a separate video, because this is a bit explain I need to do, because I need to cover the content hub, I need to cover the middle API layer, how can we integrate the different integration services that content hub provided, and then I need to also use the JSS as well. So this is basically I will cover in a separate video, but today I will actually explain the whole things of how this new JSS is structured, and then how can we create some feature on it. So now here and I am going to make this video as short as possible, just bear on me. So now if you compare the structure, right, so the structure is quite same. So here you have the data folder. So basically in the data folder you have the data, so you can produce some data here, and you can represent that data straight away in the application. You don't need to be connected to the Sitecore in order to get those data. So that's the concept where you can define different things. So number one, you have the component content. So basically I haven't done anything here. And then second, I have the content folder, which is important, because if you see here, this content is, what is this content? This is basically a part of a complex rendering. I will explain that on a bit later, so just, you know, bear on me. So now dictionary, I have nothing here, but most importantly, so media is, you know, you can put some media file, you know, image or video here, but this route is very important. So in the routes, as we have since JSS came into the market, so they have this routes thing where you can define your different page route. So number one, I have created a about page. So you will have your URL /about, and then contact us, content hub, whatever. So this is basically our different you will see here different pages has different routes. So like for example, home is this home, and then we have the services and services SSG. So different you can see here the URL, right? So those routes are configured here as usual. So I don't want to explain this route, because this is basically pretty easy, and you would have seen this kind of video already in my channel. So now what I really want to explain today is the next part of this JSS. So the very first thing, if you already know about next.js, then next.js basically the wrapper of React. So if you want to have some ready-made sort of component or some obviously some extra different features that also have next.js, but as a whole we can say some sort of wrapper of React. So you will get out of the box many things from Next. So I'll show you, but the very interesting thing is if you explore the source folder, then you'll see here there is a pages directory, and the pages directories Sitecore JSS has put couple of files, which is really important. So what is pages in terms of Next.js? So Next.js has the dynamic routing feature, which mean is if you create a pages directory and if you put your content there in the pages directory, then you will get out of the box dynamic routing. Means if you create a folder in the pages like some xyz, and inside the xyz if you create another folder, and inside there if you create any file, tsx file, then you will get a route like your website slash the folder name slash the subfolder name slash the file name. So this kind of thing. And also Next.js has provided couple of other things very interesting, like the dynamic routing of, so for example, if you want to have a dynamic routing, like you have a folder called maybe marketing or maybe service, and in the service you want a dynamic routing like services /1, services /2, services /3, this kind of thing. So for that you can actually define the file as a square bracket like this, and then in the square bracket is kind of index where you can actually instruct the next.js, hey, that anything that comes here use a dynamic routing kind of thing. And then what is the difference between single square bracket and multiple square bracket, and also this thing. I mean, if you go through the documents, next document, then you will clearly understand. So this is really easy. So one will tell you how can we now how your route will also support for different paths, how your routes are going to support for optional if there is any not, if your path is not matching, if your route is not matching for your path, then how it's going to behave. So this kind of different definition you will find, and you will see this one. So the very first thing you will notice here in JSS application, that it has a page page.tsx, so path.tsx. basically what is happening here is all the different pages that you define here will have a single implementation. So if you create any route here, basically, so that route will create a sort of URL here, and that URL if you hit, then there should be some executables, and this is the class, this is the JavaScript file for that. So every time you create a route, that you will execute this thing here, because this is a dynamic route, and this double square bracket tell you that any path will be matched here, number one, including, so any path means inside the pages, means this you are actually in your root path, basically your domain slash, and then everything will be matched, including the path itself. So if you put any path, okay, which is not matched maybe, then you will get your default route, something like this. So yeah, I mean, so this is the first thing that I found here. And then here what it does basically is, every request it comes here and it tries to fetch something here in this get static path. So what is this get static paths? So get static path is the SSG, means static site generation approach of Next. So which basically means is, if you want to load any content in the build time, not in the runtime, in the build time, and what is the benefit for that? So benefit is basically in your dynamic routing, for example, if you have something like this, then you can even tell the get static path will actually give you how many path, or you can say how many routes will be covered for the SSG, static site generation. And this is the method where the actual content will be generated from in the build time. So this get static props basically will execute by the build system, or you can say the next.js itself, during the time your application will be built. And it will actually, so for example, this get static path, inside that method, if you connect to your API and try to access some data, so what will happen is during the build time, the next will do that for you. And what it will do, it will save that content, it will render the HTML, and it will actually physically create some files. And what will happen is after the build, if you try to serve your page, so this is basically in the page level, you will see this is actually page under the pages. So this thing must be inside the page level. There is a way to implement your get static props in a component level that was done by Sitecore. I will explain that bit later. But yeah, what will happen is in the page level, it will generate all the different HTML sort of cached thing, and that data will be served from there. Now this is a very important parameter, revalidate, which basically tells you that okay, not only you regenerate everything, but also can you refresh the content in a regular interval, and that interval will be defined here. So this value is defined in seconds. So basically 5 seconds means each 5 seconds whatever the content that we cache will be refreshed, something like this. So I think that's something. So now let me explain this bit. So I have this little application where well, this is basically, I also explained before. So the very first thing is the home page, right? So in the home page I have this. In the routes, this is the root directory, you have the enyml, so you can put your different language version of your content. So here you have the definition of your page, or you can say route. Definitely this is the route. So if you go there, then you will have your sort of a definition of your page, where you can say that okay, this is my page, the page is structured with these placeholders, because the placeholder is our very root part of the page. So your page has some static content, any places you can put that, and then you have your placeholder where you will push your dynamic content, right? So then here, this is my page where I have the placeholders, JSS main, and then this JSS main placeholder is defined where. So everything should be defined somewhere. So this JSS main, this is out of the box sort of, when you create your first application, that placeholder will be created automatically. There are two placeholders that Sitecore JSS does create automatically for you. So you can create as many placeholders as you can. So this placeholder, there is a placeholder definition file. You will find every definition in the Sitecore folder. So if you expand the Sitecore, then you have this definition, and in the definition you will see this placeholder Sitecore definition, where you will find your different definition of your placeholders. So this is your JSS main, JSS article. This is created by me, that was done before. So yeah, that's the thing. So first of all, you need to create this placeholder if you want to. Since we already have this JSS main placeholder, then I am putting the placeholder, and the placeholder you can put as many component as you can. So now I have the component, and this component, basically this content block was already created for me, but I can create as many as I can. So I have created a lot of others. So how to create your component? Basically you can manually create that, but the easiest way to create the component is to execute JSS scaffold, and that way you can create you can put your name. So you can run a command like, let me show you this command. So you can say JSS scaffold, and then you can put any name like XYZ. So your component will be created under that name. Okay, so now that's the thing. And the other thing is, so here you have the component, so you can put your different component here. And then what is happening here is I also created a a sort of complex rendering. Let me show you here. So here you will see in the home page. So in the home page I have, so what I'll do is I'll try to open this one in experience editor. So if you want to open it in experience editor, then you can say sc mode equal to edit. So if you run this, then it will open experience editor, but my application is not registered in the identity server, so that's why it is not allowed. But what I can else do is I can open my Sitecore instance straight away, and then what I can do is I can use this application directly in my experience editor, which is also quite easy. And before doing that, okay, so I think I don't need to explain this. I don't need to explain this one, but now what I'll explain is, so here so this application, this is really sort of easy approach. So I'll show you here. So if you go open the content editor, then you will see that different templates that when I publish, then it's created automatically. So this is my home page, and the home page I have used this different component, basically means different component in that placeholder that I have used. So it comes here, and then if you also see this presentation details, right? So this home page presentation details, you will also see in the final layout that so how many, so this is the service block, article block, right? So you may have your different page component here, but the important thing is how many of them are already there tagged in your presentation details. So if it doesn't put in your presentation details, basically that means that particular block or component will not be loaded. Okay, so now here you will see if I want to open this application in experience editor, then you will see it. And then here this is the services, and it is working here really fine. Now what I want to explain finally is, you will see here the data, we can configure the SSG in the page level, but Sitecore does the SSG implementation. SSG means server static site generation part, or you can say SSR, which is basically server side rendering. Sitecore extend that on in the component level as well. So how can we do that? So if you see here in the page level, we have the very common this only one class, this tsx file, on implementation, on component, you can say. So what will happen is, if you have 10 or 15 different pages, then you don't have separate places for that. So you have a single class file, single component, which is path.tsx, where you can you can implement only a single page kind of thing. So if you have 10 different pages or routes, it will execute this single tsx file, this single component. So it is really hard for you to have your component, to have your data, or you can say SSG, based on your different pages, because it's not possible, because we have a single page here, single implementation. So what will happen for that? So if you want, for example, some data coming for different pages, some data coming different data coming for other pages, so you will have different pages and you want the data coming based on that page. So in order to implement that, you actually need to go with the component approach. So you will have your page data, where you can be able to fill in some data in the page level. So for example, imagine that you have a layout file. So this is a layout. So in the layout, you have some header, some footer, you might have some section where you want to serve some static sort of data. So when the website will build, you want to generate some data, and then data will be displayed somewhere in your pages, in header, footer, or some other section. You can actually do that in the page level, and you can definitely revalidate the data in a certain time, that okay, after 60 seconds or 1 minute or 1 hour or 1 day you want your data to be refreshed, and the data will coming from the source on that manner. That is fine. But if you want to have your data for different components, or you can say for different routes, different pages, then this will not solve. So what you need to do, then you need to go to your component. So this is your component where you have different components, right? So in the component level, there is no option in next to have your SSG or SSR. So that's why Sitecore implemented this custom get static props for component level as well. So for that you need to use this class get static component props. So initially in the page level we used get static props, but now we are using get static component props. That way you will be able to serve the data in your components. So if you have different components in different places, you can call your this method basically, and the data will be cached based on that. And once you want to revalidate, you can do that as well. So everything will be done based on the components, and that will solve your paging issue. So if you have your different pages, but since we have a single implementation of different pages, so you don't need to actually serve all the different pages data in that single implementation, but you can use this component approach. So I think this is quite clear. So that's what I really wanted to share. And the last but not least, what I wanted to share today is to this content hub implementation. And look, I mean, this SSG is really important in terms of this content hub. So now this content hub data coming from, so let me put a breakpoint here. So this is a wrapper API where I try to connect to my content hub, right? So if I click this here, and then you can see it is hitting, and then it is getting the data here. Now what I'll do, I'll turn off the API. Now I'll click again one more time. So let me open, and then what I'll say is my JSS application to open here, and then I'll click here content hub, and then content hub, since the API is not running, it doesn't matter because the data is already prefaced, already cached, and the data will be served from there. And there is a revalidation approach where data will come after certain seconds or certain minutes. For me, I used sort of a big duration, so this is 15 minutes or something. So here you can see it is 10 minutes. For that, this component level I have used this 10 minutes. So after 10 minutes it will try to revalidate. Now the question is, this data is huge data. So if you see the content, it is basically almost 600 kilobyte or something. So now question is, so for example, what will happen after 10 minutes? So 10 minutes, maybe 11th minutes, one user try to hit this content hub, and then since the time is over, then the next will reload the data. So in that case, that user might need to wait long, right? But the approach is not like that. The approach is the user will still be served from this cached data, but since the time is already over, in the background task sort of thing, next will trigger this request and pull the data from the server based on the logic of this function, and update all the physical file that it created before. So that's the approach that next.js follow, and will give the next request maybe when the data will be updated already, the cache will be updated, the next request will be served from the cache, and which will have all the latest data. So I think now the concept is quite clear, guys. So I think, yeah, so that's all for today, I guess. And okay, so how I actually implemented this content hub here in next.js, and how is the approach of ISR, incremental static regeneration. So those two things will be completely covered in my next video. So this is the part 1 video of this deep dive of JSS with next. So next video I will cover these two implementation as well. So till then, have a good day, good night, and bye.